Welcome into the Inside Scoop. We are live from Nashville, Tennessee. Today is Sunday, August 31st, and I am your host, Josh Newberg. College football is back. Recruits were on the move this weekend, so we got a lot of big visits to break down today, and we are going to do just that. But first, you guys do me a favor. Hit subscribe to the Rivals Recruits channel. Recruiting is heating up, and I don't want you to miss any of the action, so jump on board and hit subscribe. Also, join Rivals today. Get 1 full year of access to The Athletic, plus all the On3 national and fan site content. What a time to jump on board and join Rivals. All right, on today's show, we're talking 5-star buzz out of Ohio State and Florida State, 2 monster wins this weekend, and recruits were on the sidelines for both of those. Also, a live check-in with Cane Sport insider Stephen Wagner from Hard Rock, as recruits are literally arriving right now for the Notre Dame-Miami game. We got a chance to check in with him from Hard Rock. But first, let's talk about the biggest developments of the weekend in the recruiting world, and we are going to start with the first 5-star flip of the fall season. You guys, if you watched this channel at all last week, I talked about it the last 7-8 days about the first 5-star, because they're all committed right now. So I wanted to know, who would be the first 5-star to flip? We know not all of these 5-star commitments are going to stick. Well, Tennessee got it done in a big way, flipping number 1 wide receiver Tristan Keys from LSU. So Tennessee has now landed 4 marquee wideouts in the 2026 cycle. He joins Tyree King, Legend Bay, Celesi Moa. What a class. Keys is just the cherry on top of an already elite wide receiver class for Tennessee. So big win this weekend over Syracuse. Tennessee gets it going on offense. Got to like the way things feel if you're a Tennessee fan right now. All right, let's check in on a few of the top quarterbacks in America who were in action on Friday night. We'll start with 5-star quarterback Jared Curtis, committed to Georgia. Obviously, he's already cemented his place as one of the top prospects, not just in the 26 cycle, but across America. And he had another landmark performance on Friday night in a barn burner against Ensworth. Curtis threw for 189 yards, 3 touchdowns, while also rushing for 131 yards in 2 more scores. The Georgia commit fired a bullet TD right here to tie the game with just 4 seconds left in regulation, then scored the game-winning 2-point conversion to propel the Eagles to a 2-0 start, chasing another state title. Now, Director of Scouting and Ranking here at Rivals, Charles Power, he was at the game. He's going to come on the channel this week. We're going to talk more about Jared Curtis. All right, 5-star Keyshawn Henderson, the Houston commitment. Now, official numbers have not been confirmed, but Henderson threw for 6 touchdowns. That was hard to say. 6 touchdowns. Also, busted a 100-yard touchdown run in Legacy's season opening victory over Second Baptist. It was the long run, saw the 5-star commit break a couple tackles. Here it is in his own end zone. Almost a safety before wiggling free, going 100 yards down the field for an absolute back-breaking score. They roll 45-27. All right. Let's talk about 4-star USC commitment, Jonas Williams. He absolutely lit it up, hurling for 358 yards, 4 touchdowns in a breezy 40-0 win. The nation's number 10 ranked quarterback in the 2026 cycle threw for almost 3,000 yards as a junior, and he's going to be a handful this season for opposing defenses. Lincoln Way East is the number 1 team in Illinois per the Massey rankings. All right, Kavian Bryant, the number 1 quarterback in the 2027 class. He completed all 18 of his pass attempts, racked up 297 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also rushed for a pair of scores as Westwood raced to a season-opening victory. The 6'1", 185-pounder, top quarterback in the 2027 cycle. He was at Florida State this weekend. We're going to talk all about that, but those were some of the biggest developments of the weekend. You guys talk to me. Who do you think was the top quarterback performance of the weekend? And also, Tristan Keys, flipping to Tennessee. Who do you guys think could be the next 5-star flip? Let me know in the comment section below. We got to talk a little Florida State recruiting because FSU, they might have pulled off the biggest upset of week 1. And on Saturday, Doak was rocking as the 2-touchdown underdog Seminoles took down the 8th-ranked Alabama Crimson Tide. by 2 touchdowns. So we are talking recruit reaction in this one. But before we get going, guys, do me a favor, hit subscribe to the Rivals Recruit channel. Look at this. We're almost to 100K. Help us out, FSU fans, and get us there. All right, let's talk with Matt Lasser of War Chant. Matt, you've been in some big games at Doak, but what was the atmosphere like before kickoff on this one?
Man, it was actually insane. I got to I didn't get a press pass for this one because it was such a big game, but so I got to watch it like from the stands like a normal person for the first time since I graduated. So that made it a lot more fun, and it was insane.
Yeah, and I'm sure the recruits were buzzing. There was close to 100, whether it be from the 26, 27, 28 classes. But there's a few important ones that we're going to talk about in this video, and we're going to start with quarterback Kavian Bryant, the number 1 quarterback in the 2027 class from Palestine, Texas. And he was on campus in the summer, really enjoyed his visit, and somehow Florida State got him locked into this week 1 trip to Tallahassee. You spoke to him after FSU beat Alabama. What was his impressions of the Seminoles?
Yeah, we'll actually probably speak to him again on Monday because it's like a 2.5 day visit. So, but yeah, his impressions were high. He got to the game late due to travel delays, but he really liked the offense. He was just happy he was there to watch it, and his style of quarterback fits in it perfectly. And I think he really saw that and saw the vision of a Gus Malzahn offense and how he could play in that a lot. And then on Monday is more of a going to see a practice, meeting with the coaches. He'll meet with Norvell on Monday. He also met with Luke Laux, that head basketball coach, on Sunday too. So kind of an everything visit and setting up like an official visit normally is kind of.
Yeah. And hey, he's a 2027 recruit. We've been talking about these quarterbacks. They're coming off the board quickly. So, he could conceivably have a decision in the next 3 to 4 months. Who do you think right now is the biggest competition when it comes to Kavian Bryant?
I mean, being a Texas kid, it's obviously going to be Texas and Texas Tech, and that's what everyone's been saying. And when you go and think about NIL, obviously those are NIL giants right now, and compared to Florida State, that's going to be a little tough to go up against. But if you can get in, and they've made a good impression on him so far, right? That first visit he's raved about and citing that's the reason why he wanted to come back, and now they're doing it all over again for multiple days. So you just got to keep chipping away a little bit. And earlier this week, I was hearing that they could be the front runner from sources close to him, and then Wilt Fong said something close to the same thing. So Florida State's in a better spot, surprisingly, with them being in it with all these in-state schools for them.
Yeah, pretty serious, especially after that win. Now, we're going to talk about a flip target here in a minute, but I want to talk about somebody from the 2026 cycle that's a very important recruit at a position in need. We're talking DQ Forkpa. And he's an uncommitted linebacker at 6'2", 220, and he's at St. Francis Academy up in Maryland. And he was supposed to make his decision in July, and if he did pull the trigger in July, it was going to be the Florida Gators. He held off on that and is going to make a decision at some point during the season. So DQ Forkpa shows up in Tallahassee this weekend. What did it mean to have him there for such a great defensive performance?
Yeah, I thought it was huge. And even he said, like, I could see the versatility in the system. I could see myself playing in this system. And he's kind of said that for a while now, even when it looked like he was trending to UF. I mean, you got to remember when he came out of his Florida State official visit, he said, I think I'm ready to be a Seminole. And then things started trending towards the Gators direction not long after that. But from what I've been hearing, Florida's kind of faded out of that. He even said Florida State was in his top 2 yesterday, and the other one of the 2 was Michigan. And it's kind of confirmed what we've been hearing already, that this has been a Florida State-Michigan battle there at the top. He's also going to visit Mizzou. They've come into the picture. That is later this month, September 27th. And, I mean, we're kind of – it's going to be weird to see when he makes this decision. I've heard from sources close to him it could be September. And then yesterday he said probably within the next 2 months. He doesn't want to do it right now. He said he has no clue where he wants to go right now. But – doesn't want it to go to December. So he's kind of in that middle ground of before signing day, but pretty soon.
Yeah, well, the way those linebackers were firing on Saturday, he had to be impressed with what he saw. All right, let's move on. Back to 2027 class. We're talking about number 1 player in the state of Tennessee, Lawrence Britt. I don't know if Florida State's landed the number 1 player in the state of Tennessee since maybe Jalen Ramsey. Britt was on campus. He's 6'2", 180. He's listed as an athlete. 1, where does Florida State want him to play? And 2, what was his reaction to the game?
He loved the game, man. It was he was very surprised. And when I talked to him before, he was like, "I just want to see improvement. I want to see them on the right track." Right. A lot of the going into this game was Florida State didn't need to win. They just need to show that they're improving and they are on the right track to go somewhere else. But obviously they won. I asked him if he was surprised if they won. He said no. Like I could see it happening, which was kind of funny. And he was really impressed. He called Tommy C the missing piece. Florida State likes him at wide receiver, I believe. But what was interesting, or at least what I found interesting, was he said he talked to the whole offensive staff from running backs coach Yak to Tim Harris Jr. And everyone in between there. So it's kind of a true athlete. Yeah, and you mentioned Tennessee. Well, he's from Memphis. Obviously, Norvell came from Memphis, so has some ties there. You have an assistant on the staff, actually assistant tight ends coach, Preston Brady, who's from the Memphis area. So he's been doing a lot of work there and been his main guy. And Florida State's definitely a school to watch for him. I think they were close to the top going in, and they just made a better impression. He told me that, it gave him a lot to think about, and it gave his family a lot to think about after this game.
All right. Let's talk about some flip buzz right now. Yeah, 4-star edge, one of the top 10 edges in the country for the 2027 class, Jabaris Garar, who goes by Chicken. So Chicken Garar was on campus, and the thing here is...
Great nickname, right?
Yeah, great nickname. He is committed to Alabama, 6'2", 215 pounds, out of Mobile, Alabama, but there is some buzz that he had a really good time. What are you hearing?
Yeah, he's been here a lot. Like he's been committed to Alabama for a while now, but he's been on campus multiple times. And I even asked him, like, man, what keeps you coming back? Like, obviously you're committed to Alabama, but you've been here so many times. Like, what is it? And he's like, man, this place feels like a second home to me, like second to Mobile, Tallahassee's home. Mm-hmm. And, that's kind of interesting, right? When a kid says that. And then I kept asking him, so, like, where does FSU stand for you? Obviously Alabama, you got to be careful with these kids sometimes. But he went out and was like, man, I'd love Florida State. They're at the top of the list. There's might be something coming. So he said, stay tuned were his words. So, that kind of gives you a little indicator like, oh, okay, man, like you can try to hide it, but that looks pretty obvious to me.
Yeah, he did not shut the door on that recruitment there. So We'll keep an eye on Chicken Garar. All right, Matt, let's wrap this up. Florida State got hot in recruiting late part of the summer, and even though there was some success on the trail, even the experts were saying, well, got to see how they do this season, because coming off that 2-win season, if you play like that again, things are going to fall apart. Well, they opened the season beating Alabama, a good sign that things won't be a 2-10 year. So what are you getting in terms of the momentum FSU has right now on the trail?
I mean, it's huge. They got 2 commitments just after the win, right? You had a 2028 guy and then Jonah Winston. And, Jonah Winston was kind of an obvious one considering the family ties, but still good to get in the door, and they're seeing people get commits, right? So I think especially with Kavion Bryant and how we're going to see this visit wraps up tomorrow or on Monday, it will really show this momentum. And a guy like Forkpa too, that momentum comes off the Isaiah Williams stuff because, when I was talking after Isaiah Williams committed, and my first thing head goes to the dominoes of the position. You go, okay, well, the next one was probably Forkpa. Where's he at now? Because obviously the room's a little more full. Yeah. No, what I heard was he'd be more interested because he would like to play with Isaiah, and that shows there's talent there. And he hung out with him last night, as Chad Simmons reported earlier, and it kind of goes along with that. So I think in general it's just stacking on top of each other, and just got to keep getting commits. We'll see how Kavion Bryant does or how that goes, but. We just have to wait and see. And all things are showing good signs of maybe they'll be like UF last year where they started flipping a bunch of people towards the end, and because you just didn't really know going into the year what they were going to be.
Just keep winning ball games, and those flips will happen. So FSU fans, talk to Matt and I. Get in here. The recruits love the game. You guys love the game. What was your favorite part of Saturday night of beating Alabama? Let us know. And were you on the field? Did you guys storm the field? Anybody in the comment section, let me know if you were on the field at Doak on Saturday night. Let us know. Let's talk Ohio State recruiting, because the Buckeyes took down number 1 Texas Longhorns. It wasn't a barn burner, but 14-7, and they were rolling the horseshoe. It was bumping. There was recruits on the sidelines, close to 100 recruits, whether it be from 26, 27, 28 classes. And we're going to talk about it here. We're going to break it all down. But before we do, Buckeye fans, do me a favor. Subscribe to the Rivals Recruits channel. We're talking Ohio State all season long, so jump on board and hit subscribe. All right, let's bring in recruiting insider Mick Walker from Letterman Row. You were there. You were on the sidelines before the game. What was the atmosphere like? I know it was only a noon kickoff, but it seemed like they packed that stadium.
Yeah, they did some different things this offseason to try and improve the stadium atmosphere, and it seemingly worked. There was a lot more noise, and obviously with these big season openers, without the NFL season starting, you got a lot of these guys, like a lot of the guys that were on this past national championship team, Jack Sawyer, Tyleek Williams, JT Tuimoloau, all kind of come back. Travion Henderson, you get the pictures with their recruits on the sideline, and that made it interesting for the recruits, but also, I mean, just interesting. You've done the photos before, so you have hundreds of people walking down at you. Who's a player? Who's a recruit? You got to figure that out, but like you said, hundreds of recruits, and it seemed like everybody had a positive interaction based on what I've heard Steve Wilfons reported, and even Jeremy Birmingham and Alex Gleitman at Letterman Row.
All right, well, we're going to cover 5 of the most important visitors on campus, and we're going to start with one of them that is already committed to Ohio State. It's Blaine Bradford. He's one of the top safeties in America, and he's from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, been committed to Ohio State for several months now. But there's been some buzz late in the summer that maybe he wants to stay home. LSU is obviously a front runner there, but him showing up for week 1, that was big. What was his impressions of this game?
Yeah, I heard he had a great time. It seems like he enjoyed actually seeing the game. Obviously, you have Caleb Downs playing in a game, so any safety's going to like watching that. But the biggest thing was I don't know who all came with him. We still haven't kind of figured out whether his mom or his dad. I know his dad did not come, but I'm not sure if any family or parents came with him. Obviously, his older brother Jacob plays at LSU, so maybe they were in Death Valley watching his first college game against Clemson. But that's kind of the biggest question. Blaine seemed to come. He seemed to enjoy the whole trip. But were there any family with him? I'm not entirely sure, but still, it seemed like Blaine had a good trip, which is the important thing.
So how big of a threat do you think is LSU? And is there anybody else involved right now in this recruitment?
No, so before he committed, he was supposed to officially visit Texas and LSU. Both those visits did not happen, obviously, since he committed. LSU being essentially within walking distance, his brother being there, I think everybody just assumes at some point he will visit for a game, but will it be as a recruit or as a family member? I'm not entirely sure. LSU, obviously, they've had all the other, I believe, top 10 prospects in Louisiana already committed in his class. It's really just Blaine that's left out there, headed out of state. I don't think there's anybody else that's in it, and I honestly don't know if there's a ton of concern that he will flip at this point, but it's just hard to see him not getting on campus. And obviously, if LSU continues to win after they beat Clemson on a Saturday night, maybe they have a little extra push and a little bit, maybe even a little extra funding to get a guy like him to stay home.
All right. We'll keep an eye on Blaine Bradford, but definitely it was a good sign to see him on the sidelines there. All right. Now we're going to turn the page to 2027. Teams are really focusing in on 2027. Ohio State is no different. Some big-time names on campus. We're going to talk about running back David Gabriel Georges. He's from the Baylor School in Tennessee. Elite running back. He had to have enjoyed it. A real Big Ten grinded-out style game. What was his impressions?
Yeah, it seemed like he really enjoyed it. It's his 3rd visit this calendar year. He came up with his mom, his dad, his aunt, uncle, and I believe in a cousin and a sibling, I believe, all came down from Canada, where he's originally from, for this game in Columbus. They all seemed to enjoy it. He was still there on Sunday. I talked to somebody that said they thought he had a good overall visit. He got to meet with Ryan Day on Sunday. It seems like Ohio State's prepared and willing to go all the way they can with NIL in that one as well. So that's why Ohio State seems to be battling neck and neck with Tennessee. Both schools that, as you've kind of chronicled well over the past couple of years, Tennessee and Ohio State seem to hit a lot when they miss out on similar targets. And that's like in this cycle, it's been Savion Hyder goes to Michigan. So now you have Tennessee and Ohio State trying to get a top 2027 running back in David Gabriel Georges. He was there on Saturday and seemingly had a great time as Carlos Laughlin tries to get him to stay home, seeing top target.
All right. Another number 1 player at their position. We're hearing a lot of this when it comes to Ohio State recruiting. And that's Brock Williams, the number 1 tight end in the Rivals 300. I'm sure he could see a role for himself in this offense. What do you think? Where do you think Ohio State stands with Brock Williams?
I think it's Georgia and Ohio State at the top. Texas is involved as well, trying to get him on campus. But Georgia and Ohio State have both gotten him on campus multiple times this offseason. He's been a top target for tight ends coach Keenan Bailey for a while. And obviously, since he's kind of 6 hours away, he can come down pretty frequently. He's got a good relationship with 2027 quarterback commit Brady Edmonds. So all factors are kind of building. It was just about getting him on campus to see the atmosphere, see the environment, see him put in 4 different tight ends when they had to go 4th and 1 on the goal line, and even have freshman Nate Roberts line up as a fullback. So the Ohio State tight ends didn't catch a ton of balls. Max Clare caught a couple. He had a good game. But otherwise, it was about just kind of seeing that they were going to play their tight ends and develop in a wide variety of ways, and that's what they put on display for Brock Williams.
He had to have enjoyed that one. All right, let's talk about Anthony Sweeney, 4-star edge out of the Baltimore, Maryland area. Ohio State does a lot of work in the DMV, so another big-time prospect. He was at the game. What are you hearing on Sweeney?
Yeah, you and Steve talked about it last week, kind of talking about Ohio State flip targets in 2026. A lot of the discussion is around that edge position because Ohio State missed on a lot of guys this summer. So they need to go get a top guy in 2027. And Anthony Sweeney was on campus yesterday. Chris Whitehead was on campus as well. He's a 5-star, top 25 guy from Virginia. They got to get one of those guys in 2027 at this point. And it seems like all returns were good on Anthony Sweeney. He was another guy that stayed through Saturday night, got to spend some time with the coaching staff on Sunday. So he was here for the spring game, comes back for the season opener. It seems like Ohio State's starting to trend up in that recruitment.
All right, let's head down. One more prospect I want to talk about. We're going to head down to the state of Florida. Number 2 in the Rivals 100 at the quarterback position, Champ Mons. He was up. Now, how big of a priority is he, and what was he saying after this one?
Yeah, Ohio State, obviously it's early. They have a 26 quarterback committed now after getting Luke Fahey this summer. They have a 27 in Brady Edmonds, who we mentioned earlier. Now the attention's on 2028. There's a few guys they haven't offered, but Champs Mons is one of the guys they have offered. They had a couple other guys on campus this weekend with him, but the one that I heard and Jeremy Birmingham heard, and Alex Guyman heard heading into the visit was that Champ Mons was the one they were excited to get back up to campus. He came up with his mom and his dad. They got to spend some time with the coaching staff, Billy Fessler and Colin Canoe, both the quarterback coaches up there, and it seemed like he really enjoyed it. He spoke highly of the visit to Steve Wiltfong after the visit, and it's just about kind of continuing to build that relationship. It's so early in that class, but that's a guy they seemingly have circled or near the top of the list as they kind of start looking at that class.
All right. So just, moving forward, this was a big win for Ohio State, who has some big games coming up. But where do you feel the momentum is right now with Ohio State recruiting?
Yeah, Ohio State, like similar to what Notre Dame does, they do a good job of in these classes kind of getting ahead in the early off season, maybe December, January, after these guys finish up their junior seasons, trying to get them in the boat. And I think that's what the goal is with David Gabriel Georges, Brock Williams. Tell them they're the number one target because that's what they are. Make sure you have everything correct when it comes to the NIL component early on and see if you can get them in the class. That way you don't have to fend off official visit season, flip season down the stretch. Get these guys in that you've gotten on campus, that you have good relationships with. Get them on into the class early and kind of start building around Brady Edmonds, Jameer Brown as the 2 leaders already in the class.
All right. Well, we only hit on a handful of guys. You guys go to Letterman Row for way more intel on the weekend. Mick Walker, thanks for stopping by on a very busy Sunday afternoon. Let's go live to Hard Rock State, and we got Steven Wagner from Kane Sport pulled up right outside the recruits' entrance. Perfect timing, Steven. Looks like there's a little rain going on, but how's the atmosphere pregame before this Notre Dame-Miami matchup?
The atmosphere is absolutely electric. Fans out here have been partying and tailgating all afternoon. The rain didn't seem to slow them down very much. A couple went into their cars and trucks for a few minutes while we got some really, really heavy rain. Some recruits kind of took the opportunity and outside, wait a few minutes in that really heavy downpour, but they are starting to roll right back in. Derek Cooper arrived a little while ago, the 4-star running back committed to Texas. James Johnson, the 5-star defensive tackle, number 1 defensive tackle in the Rivals 300, arrived a few minutes ago as well. Mark Matthews, the number 2 overall prospect in 2027, has already arrived. The recruits are very steadily trickling in. The fans are rocking. I expect this to be an absolutely electric game tonight.
Oh, man, it's going to be exciting. And we're talking like 2 hours before game time. So generally speaking, what do big-time recruits like this do before a game?
Yeah, well, Miami has a pretty luxurious hospitality section that recruits are able to go up to before the game. So they're going to go up there with a bunch of recruiting staffers and recruiting assistants. And basically, they're just hanging out in a really kick-ass luxury suite for about 2.5, maybe even 3 hours before kickoff. They're able to hang with like some of the off-field recruiting assistants who really quietly behind the scenes have big roles in helping Miami assemble this borderline top 10. And then from there, I mean, players are going to slowly make their way into the recruiting section. And then from there, it's game time. You're watching the band. You're watching the flyover that we're expecting at Hard Rock Stadium tonight. You are getting ready for a pumping Sunday night game.
So we know Notre Dame fans travel well. So just, based off your proximity, what are you seeing when it comes to Miami versus Notre Dame fans? Who is more prominent right now?
I mean, there's no doubt that there are a boatload of Miami fans here. My Notre Dame fans have traveled well. You can look around, see a pretty good amount of blue and gold. But I mean, this is going to be a Miami home crowd. This is Miami versus Notre Dame. We all remember what that was like the last time Notre Dame came here in 2017.
Oh, yeah.
Expect there to be a very, very similar atmosphere here tonight. I expect the stadium to be absolutely packed. I think we could even get a crowd that kind of is a little bit of the old Orange Bowl Hard Rock.
All right. Well, let's say Miami wins and there's a lot of emotion, a lot of electricity. Is there any recruits right now, whether it be 26, 27, even 28, is there anybody that you have going on commit watch prior to this one?
No one immediately, but that being said, each of the last 2 years that I've been here and Miami has had a big home win, there has always been a surprise commit. Whether it's in the current class, whether it's in next year's class, whether it's 2 years down the line, there has always been someone who goes ahead and kind of surprises a lot of us that have been following the meeting. And, it's suddenly you can hear the crowd cheering and his team bus just arrived. But it would not stun me at all if we see some sort of surprise, but I cannot tell you who, because right now it doesn't feel like there's anyone that we are immediately placing on commit watch. We will definitely be watching it.
All right, Steven Wagner on the scene at Hard Rock. Going to be an epic game tonight. Appreciate you taking a little time, dodging some of these summer storms, dodging some recruits to make it on the Inside Scoop today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Josh.